There is a moment, often invisible to everyone but the empath herself, when something inside her quietly shifts. It does not arrive with shouting. It does not announce itself with slammed doors or dramatic exits. It arrives in the silence between two breaths. In the second, she realizes that the person in front of her has been feeding off her pain for far longer than she ever allowed herself to admit. And in that single, almost sacred pause, the entire emotional economy of the relationship collapses. The narcissist does not know it yet. He still believes the script is the same. He still believes that one more compliment, one more cold stare, one more carefully placed accusation will pull her back into the orbit she has circled for years. But something has changed in her nervous system, something deeper than thought, deeper than decision. Her body has finally remembered what peace feels like. And from that moment on, no performance, no manipulation, no rehearsed tears will ever land the way they used to. That is the hidden psychological shift that quietly dismantles the entire structure the narcissist has spent a lifetime building, and understanding it changes everything you thought you knew about emotional abuse, recovery, and the strange power of the empath who finally wakes up. If this is the kind of psychological insight you have been searching for, take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel, because what we are about to explore together is not surface level advice. This is the deeper work of healing, the kind of understanding that rewires how you see yourself, your relationships, and the patterns that have kept you trapped. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and walk this path with us, because the next layer we are about to uncover is one most people never get to see. To understand why a super empath appears to torture a narcissist simply by existing peacefully, you have to first understand what the narcissist is actually addicted to. It is not love. It is not connection. It is not even attention in the way most people imagine. What the narcissist is addicted to is a very specific emotional reaction, a predictable flinch, a familiar look of hurt, a guilty apology that arrives exactly on schedule. The empath for years has been the most reliable source of that reaction. Her warmth, her willingness to understand, her instinct to repair what she did not break, all of it created a closed loop of supply that the narcissist could draw from whenever his fragile internal world threatened to collapse. And the moment she stops providing that reaction, something inside him begins to unravel in a way he cannot name and cannot control. This is where the misunderstanding begins, because from the outside, it looks like the empath is doing something to him. It looks like she is being cold, distant, even cruel. But what is actually happening is far more profound. She is no longer performing the emotional labor of regulating his inner chaos. For years, she absorbed his projections, softened his rages, explained away his contradictions, and translated his cruelty into something her heart could survive. The moment she stops doing that invisible work, he is left alone with himself. And for a narcissist, being alone with the self is the one experience the entire personality structure was built to avoid. Consider what happens when he reaches for the old tools. He tries gaslighting, the familiar tactic of rewriting reality, insisting that what she remembers did not happen, that she is too sensitive, that she is imagining things. But the super empath has done the work. She has journaled, she has spoken to a therapist, she has reread the messages, she has trusted the quiet voice inside her that always knew. So when he tells her the sky is green, she does not argue, she does not defend. She simply looks at him with a calm that unsettles him more than any confrontation ever could, because her silence is no longer the silence of submission. It is the silence of someone who no longer needs him to agree with her version of reality in order to know it is true. And that shift alone begins to dismantle something he cannot quite identify. Then he reaches for triangulation, the old strategy of introducing a third party, a flirtation, an ex, a coworker, anyone who can be used to spark jealousy and reignite her pursuit. But the empath who is healed does not chase. She does not interrogate. She does not perform the wounded competitor he expects her to become. Instead, she notices the pattern with a kind of clinical clarity that almost surprises her, and she lets the silence speak. The narcissist, watching her not react, experiences something close to vertigo, because triangulation only works when the target still believes she is in a competition for his love. The moment she steps out of the competition entirely, the entire weapon dissolves in his hands, and he is left holding a strategy that no longer has a target. Blame shifting fails next. He tries to make her responsible for his anger, his choices, his failures, his moods. He tells her she made him do it, that if she had only behaved differently, none of this would have happened. But she has learned the difference between accountability and absorption. She knows that taking responsibility for her own behavior does not require her to take responsibility for his. And when she calmly declines the invitation to carry what was never hers, he experiences a kind of psychological exposure he has spent his entire life avoiding, because the blame was never really about her. The blame was the mechanism that allowed him to never look at himself, and she has just turned off the mechanism. Then comes love bombing, the desperate return to the beginning, the flowers, the long messages, the promises, the sudden remembering of every detail he conveniently forgot during the devaluation phase. He performs the version of himself she fell in love with, the one she has been grieving for years, the ghost she kept hoping would return. And here is where the super empath reveals the depth of her transformation, because she can see the love bombing for exactly what it is. Not love, not change, not awakening, but a strategy. She can feel the pull of the old fantasy and still choose the new reality. She can acknowledge the ache in her chest and still keep her boundary intact. And that capacity, the ability to feel longing without acting on it, is something the narcissist cannot understand, because his entire life is organized around acting on every impulse the moment it arises. Intermittent reinforcement, the cruelest of all the tactics, is the next to fail. For years, he trained her nervous system to crave the unpredictable rewards, the rare moments of warmth scattered between long stretches of coldness. Her brain, like the brain of anyone caught in a trauma bond, learned to find meaning in the crumbs, to interpret the smallest gesture as evidence that the connection was real. But healing has slowly rewired that pattern. She has learned to recognize the difference between intensity and intimacy, between chemistry and compatibility, between the rush of relief that follows cruelty and the steady warmth of real love. And once she can tell the difference, the crumbs lose their power. The reward no longer activates the old neural pathway, and the entire conditioning system quietly stops working, leaving him with a tool that has lost its grip on her mind. If you are recognizing yourself in any of this, if you are feeling the strange relief of being seen, take a moment right now to subscribe, to like this video, and to leave a comment sharing where you are in your healing journey. Not because the algorithm asks for it, but because your story matters, because someone reading the comments tonight may need to know they are not alone, and because committing publicly to your own healing is itself an act of reclamation. This community exists for those who are done being manipulated, done being small, done apologizing for the depth of their own feeling, and your presence here makes that community stronger. Now let us go deeper, because the next layer is where the real transformation lives. The silent treatment, once one of his most effective weapons, begins to fail in a way that genuinely disorients him. He withdraws, expecting her to panic, to text, to apologize, to do the emotional excavation that brings him back. But she does not. She uses the silence as rest. She uses it as space to breathe, to write, to walk, to remember who she was before she learned to shrink. And when he finally returns, expecting to find her unraveled, he finds her steady, even radiant, and the silence that was meant to punish her has somehow nourished her instead. This inversion, this transformation of his weapon into her medicine, is something he has no framework to understand, and it shakes the foundation of his belief that he controls the emotional weather of her life. Projection is the next mirror to crack. He accuses her of the very things he is doing, the lying, the cheating, the cruelty, the manipulation. For years, she absorbed these accusations, examined herself, wondered if perhaps he was right, perhaps she was the problem, perhaps her sensitivity really was a flaw. But the super empath has done the slow, patient work of building an internal witness, a quiet observer inside herself, who can hold up his accusations next to reality and see the mismatch with clarity. She no longer needs his version of her to be true. She no longer needs to defend herself to someone who is not actually listening. And when she stops engaging with the projections, they begin to bounce back toward him with a force he is not prepared to feel, because projections only stay airborne when someone catches them. And then there is the smear campaign, perhaps the most painful of all, the moment he turns to friends, family, social media, anyone who will listen, and begins to rewrite the story of the relationship with himself as the victim. The empath learns about this through whispers, through sudden coldness from people she once trusted, through the strange feeling of being watched and misjudged in rooms she used to feel safe in. And here is where the deepest layer of her healing is tested, because the impulse to defend herself, to explain, to set the record straight, is almost overwhelming. But she comes to understand something profound. Those who know her do not need the explanation, and those who believe him would not accept it. The smear campaign is designed to provoke a reaction that proves his narrative. The refusal to react is the only response that actually disarms it, and over time, the truth has a way of surfacing without her ever having to fight for it. This is the moment when the narcissist begins to experience what he might describe, if he had the language for it, as torture. But it is not torture. It is the natural consequence of building an identity on the emotional labor of someone who has decided to stop providing it. He is not being punished. He is being left alone with the self he constructed the entire personality to avoid meeting. The empath is not torturing him. She is simply no longer participating in the system that allowed him to outsource his inner regulation to her nervous system. The distress he feels is not her doing. It is the sound of a structure collapsing because its foundation was never real to begin with. And this is where the language of revenge fails completely, because revenge requires investment, and the empath has divested. Revenge requires that you still want something from the person, even if that something is their suffering. The super empath wants nothing. She does not want him to hurt. She does not want him to suffer. She does not even want him to understand. She simply wants her life back, her nervous system back, her mornings back, her laughter back, the version of herself she lost somewhere in the years of trying to love someone who could not love her in return. And in pursuing that, in choosing herself with a quiet, unwavering commitment, she becomes unreachable in a way that has nothing to do with cruelty and everything to do with sovereignty. If this conversation is reaching something deep inside you, if you can feel the truth of these words settling into the places that have been waiting to hear them, subscribe to this channel and stay close. There is so much more to explore, so much more healing available to you. And the work we do here is the work of returning to yourself after years of being told you were too much, too sensitive, too emotional, too needy, when in truth you were simply alive in a way the people around you could not tolerate. What the empath discovers in the months and years after the shift is that emotional independence is not coldness. It is not detachment in the sense of not caring. It is the rare and beautiful capacity to care deeply without abandoning yourself in the process. It is the ability to feel compassion for the narcissist's wounds without taking responsibility for healing them. It is the willingness to acknowledge that he too was once a child shaped by forces he did not choose, while also refusing to let that acknowledgement become another reason to stay in something that was destroying her. This is the paradox of the healed empath. She is more compassionate than ever, and also more impossible to manipulate than ever. And these two truths exist inside her without contradiction. Her boundaries, which the narcissist experiences as walls, are actually doors. They are doors she finally knows how to open and close on her own terms. They are the structures that allow her to be in the world without dissolving into it. And the strength of those boundaries does not come from anger. It does not come from a hardened heart. It comes from a deep, almost spiritual self respect, the kind that grows slowly in the quiet hours of recovery, in the journal entries no one will ever read, in the therapy sessions where she finally said the things she had been carrying for years, in the small moments of choosing herself when no one was watching and no one would applaud. And as she becomes more rooted in herself, something else begins to happen, something the narcissist could never have predicted. She begins to attract different people. She begins to notice when someone is safe and when someone is not, often within minutes of meeting them. Her intuition, which was once drowned out by the noise of trying to make an impossible relationship work, becomes clear and reliable again. She begins to trust herself in a way she has not trusted herself in years, perhaps in her entire life. And that self-trust becomes the foundation of every future relationship, every future choice, every future moment of standing in a room and knowing exactly who she is and what she will and will not accept.